Let's get started here. We're top of the hour. I see people coming on board. Thank you so much for being here. My name's Paul Hitchcock, and I'm the founder and president of Giant Jacks Media. Really excited for this event today. This is a Giant TV, the channel, and this is where we put out a lot of great content with compelling leaders. And I've got two really great leaders here today. I have Jay Holstine, who is an incredible Vistage Chair out of Texas. Welcome, Jay.
Hi there.
Yeah, you can hear me okay?
I hear you perfect.
Oh,
So
excellent.
thank you. Yes.
Yeah, no, great. And I've got Eric Kuefler, who is many things, an entrepreneur, doing a lot. You are the co-founder, Eric, of KS2 and the founder of EMX. And you're also out of Texas, working with a lot of Fortune 100s, a lot of Fortune 1000 companies. We're going to hear all about what you're doing. Great topic here today. Jay, why don't we start with you and let everyone know, what are you doing with Vistage? And we'll get into what Eric's focused on.
Well, what I'm doing with Vistage is I have two groups, and Eric is in one of my groups. He's in my chief executive group. The group is very much leans towards tools and capabilities that help them scale their businesses. That's kind of one of our key values that we have in the group, is having that growth mindset. And so in many of our conversations, depending on, broad range of issues, Eric is able to bring back to other members of the group some solutions that he's learned from being involved with EOS for 10 plus years. And he's just recently, in the last couple of years, started to work in a much more diligent way with the Pinnacle business methodology. And so just thought, hey, it makes some sense for us to have a conversation here with this group. What we wanted to do was just kind of field some of their questions, get a good feel for helping just his wisdom, the things he's learned in the journey in terms of what are some differentiators between the solutions that EOS provides for solving various problems versus the way Pinnacle does. And both of the systems have a large component around people. And so one of the things we thought today is kind of to saw this up into manageable sections, that today we would really focus on people. And the reason we prioritize that to the top of the list is, as we talk about topics in our groups, I think 80-90% of them have to do with people. And so it is
well said.
It is hiring people, needing to maybe let people go, make sure you have the right person in the right seat. It could be issues between partners. You name it, it's people. And so one of the things that, and also EOS is very prevalent in our group. So I have 16 members, and of those 16, 10 utilize EOS type methodology.
Mm-hmm.
And many of them utilize culture index. So we're a pretty advanced group, and even at that level of advancement, Eric is able to kind of bring things and share things with us that we didn't know. And so that's why I thought this was going to be such a good topic.
Love it. Yeah. Well, Eric, you want to jump in? What do we need to know about what you're focused on here?
Yeah, Jay laid it out really well. Thank you for that, Jay. I appreciate it. I think there was a compliment in there, so thank you so much. The big thing for today is really what I want to bring is not only have studied EOS, studied Pinnacle, studied scaling up, studied OKR, studied probably 5 or 6 of the different business operating system BOSs, but I'm also a practitioner, right? So everything we're talking about today, I hope to be useful for the audience. And another thing that I'm in strategic coach. So I'm in the 10X group there, which is a kind of a mastermind group, if you will. So a lot of the concepts and things are coming from all these different frameworks, and I'm weaving them into my day-to-day business, which I'm co-founder of at KS2. And where that matters is I get the opportunity to leverage all of these tools, all of these frameworks, and test them, if you will, at KS2, and then take the best and distill the best out of those learnings and lessons and take that into my new company called EMX. And EMX stands for Entre Multipliers. This is my company squarely focused on working with entrepreneurial companies. That's the focus. So KS2 is focused on Fortune 100, Fortune 1000. This one, we're bringing it down to earth in EMX to work with smaller companies that are looking to scale.
Fantastic. So, so Eric, why don't you, I think just staying on the topic of people, maybe we kind of start off with describing how EOS looks at various problem sets, whether those are, picking the right person for the right seat or how you do reviews, and then contrast that to the approach that Pinnacle might use.
Yeah, perfect. So let's start here. So I'm going to share my screen, and you see my screen okay, Paul?
Yeah, it looks great.
Okay, perfect. So just to level set everybody, so this is the EOS model, and we talk about the 6 parts of this model. So people, vision, data, process, traction, and issues. And as Jay stated, we're going to focus on people. And in an EOS context, we always talk about getting the right people in the right seats. And what that means in practice is the right people are the people that have and live your core values. Okay, so you want to attract those people into the organization, and you want to repel the people that do not fit your core values. Jay, do you want to comment on this, or what have you seen in your Vistage group?
I've seen that this is huge. And so we've had many members come into the group and they had not yet made an emphasis on putting together their core values. And I think it's just they didn't realize what they were missing, because the benefit of defining your core values is that almost becomes like a people magnet. And so those that share those values, they come back and say, hey, I want to work with a company that has these values. And then the flip side certainly is that if there's individuals that do not share the same values, they can kind of make up their own mind that this may not be the appropriate place for me to work. And so I found it to be a very powerful concept and one of those really kind of foundational aspects. And so when we started our Vistage group, initially we did not have Vistage group values. And then it was recognized that was a huge miss. And so we have, in one of our retreats, put together what our group values were. And now that is a major portion of my first conversation with a potential candidate, is just to get alignment of, here's kind of the attributes for our group. Is this a good fit for what you're looking for? And it makes it a really efficient mechanism for people to kind of decide if this is something they want to learn more about.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love the shift that happened once you set the core values. Just building on, so we talked about right person as core values. Right seat is they have the DNA for the position. So they're a duck in water is what we say. You just know it when you see it that they're the right person for that role. And we measure, and we'll talk a little bit more about this. We measure, and I'll show kind of the accountability chart. We measure the core values in EOS in terms of a plus on the positive side, that's where we want our people moving to, and then a minus on the plus means they always do it, and then the minus means they never do it, and the plus minus is a sometimes. So we want everybody leaning to the right, always doing the right things, and then we want to try to move out the folks that are not a core value fit, or at least get them to change their behaviors if they're willing to do that. Any comments on that, Jay, or any thoughts there?
I don't, but what I would say is for participants that we have in this Zoom meeting, they should please feel free to put in any questions they might have in the chat. And then at the appropriate time when Eric comes up and I will interject your questions. And so more than happy to do that.
Awesome. And so this is a standard accountability chart. We've all seen this. It's, very structured, and I'll share with you that working with, and I'm going to minimize that a little bit, and working with my company, KS2, we spend a lot of time on getting the structure right first, and then shape the people into those right roles. So it's structure first, seat second, and that's half the battle is understanding where do we want to go, and if you think about this as, we call it an operating system, right? So think about it in terms of software. We want each of these functions to perform a certain process, a certain business process. And as the whole system works, then the entire software product works really well. And that product is your company. So this is a very simple view of that. And what we do in EOS, and I'm going to contrast this what we do in Pinnacle. So at KS2, we started in EOS back in 2013, and I think it's helpful to help tell our story a little bit here, Jay, if you'll
Okay.
permit. So we started our journey back in 2013, and we didn't have a system to run our company. And one of the big challenges was we wanted to move from what I would call a lifestyle company, which for purposes of this means a company that wasn't being run as if they were owned by private equity, as if they were owned by venture capitalists, but more based on what the needs of the owners wanted to achieve. So it's a little bit different way. So profits weren't always the exact focus, growth wasn't necessarily a focus. And so I was looking for a system to help move the entire company towards what we wanted, which was a growth-seeking, scaling, investable type of company. And so I actually sought Vistage and then ended up doing EOS back then. And we had a fantastic implementer that got us on the right path. And so I tell all of that to bring forward here where we're at in terms of our big challenge at KS2 was getting the right people in the right seat. And then further, I'm showing this chart here, which shows how we evaluate people. So in EOS, we talk about something called a people analyzer. And it's a very simple way of, I'll say grading, or a simple way of evaluating talent, your people. And we want to have people that are high core value fits. And also on the right seat, we talk about something called GWC, I mentioned. So get it, want it, have the capacity. The capacity piece is, do they have the time, the intellectual capacity, and also the emotional capacity? So they have to have all three: get it, want it, capacity, and we use a yes, no for that. So that's what I'm showing down here in this little graph, in this little table. And as we started small in this, so we, just to give you some numbers, we started with about 15 billable consultants, or less. It was actually around 10, and then we've now since grown it to almost 50. Okay,
Wow.
so in that growth, we were, and in the early days, we were evaluating people following the EOS prescribed way, using something called here, if you can see my screen, called a 555. And the
Yeah.
five, and what this means is we spend 5 minutes on core value. This is our quarterly conversations, is another term for this. So we spend 5 minutes on core values, 5 minutes on rocks, and 5 minutes discussing the role. And this is a one-on-one conversation with our direct reports. And so that, if you do the math, I know it's hard, but it's 15 minutes. And this is one area that when I compare EOS to what we're doing now with Pinnacle, I see a shift because our people are so important. It's, as Jay said, we spend 80% of our time and energy on developing people, on managing people, leading people. And we don't look at people as a cost. We look at our people as an investment. And that's a shift. And so we believe that we need to invest a lot more time than, say, 15 minutes in a quarterly coaching. So I say that because in the Pinnacle way of doing things, we spend a lot more time. And I'm happy to show Jay if it makes sense to go into some of that, or if you have any questions.
All right, can I ask you a quick
Absolutely.
question on something, or that'd be okay? Yeah, this is an outsider, you two are the experts, but I'm looking, so is it a fair way to describe that where you're going in there and first you're looking at structure, and are people in the right roles through a really refined process, and then you're figuring out if someone's not in the right role, it's not about firing people, It's about moving people around and getting the team airtight for efficiency. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, so what I would just the first thing that we do is actually try to get the right structure. So that's where people get confused, is they say we have all these people and they feel like they need to take those same exact people and find a slot for them, a seat
Mm.
for them.
Mm-hmm.
This is a little bit different thinking. We say, okay, based on where the company is now, where do we need to go? Now let's structure our leadership team to get there.
Ah,
Let's put those functions together.
love
And
it.
then let's think about the second level after that. And then, so I like to take all the names out of the boxes when we first start and say and put them on a whiteboard, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
have have empty boxes and say, okay, now let's define this where we want to go, and then talk about, okay, who needs to fit into these slots.
Got it.
So, and I love your question, Paul. My kind of follow-up question, Eric, might be is from the different clients you've worked with, how often do you have to change the structure from what it was before they brought you in as a consultant?
I would say every time. I mean, my experience is every time, because the big one of the other shifts that happens is we don't talk about an org chart as much as we talk about an accountability chart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a slight difference too, right? Where org chart implies titles, it implies hierarchy, it implies I report to this person, but it doesn't tell you what the function needs to do. So I like what we talk about in Pinnacle, and we talk about a functional accountability chart. Okay, so what are the roles? What are the functions that that role has to perform to be successful as a team and as a company? And then just one other add-on to that, and then I'll pause, is in Pinnacle, we also talk about a process accountability, and we link the process accountability to the function accountability so that every person in the organization should know their key role, their key processes, and then because it's Pinnacle and it's an open system, I also pull in, and I like what Keith Cunningham says about the three keys. And every person in the organization should know what's their KPI, what's their deliverables, and what's their outcomes, what's expected in those three areas: KPIs, deliverables, and outcomes. And that is all woven into our Pinnacle operating system for the clients that I'm working with.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that for every employee, correct?
For every employee, that's correct. And so just to put a fine point on that, in the deliverables, when we talk about the three keys in the deliverables piece, a lot of times we're talking about rocks. And that's an easy way to think about this. And everybody knows that in EOS context and also in a Pinnacle context. And then I'm careful with when I think about my distribution companies and my manufacturing companies, that the people that are putting products, assembling their pick, pack, and shipping, we don't necessarily want to load them up with rocks per se, but we might give them some initiatives. We might give them some kind of a target to reduce costs, something that's aligned with the overall company and department's goals, but doesn't create this piling on, if you will, of additional duties. So I definitely measure that and meter that depending on the type of roles that people play.
That's a very important point. Because one of the when I talk with CEOs, one of the concerns I hear is they get so caught up in the process of EOS and the rocks that a lot of times it's taken away from running the business as usual.
Mm-hmm.
And they feel oftentimes that the meetings are a little bit on the superficial nature as opposed to what's most pressing and important, in terms of what do we need to do to have the business success we want, more so than what do we want to do to complete this rock.
Man, that is so true, Jay. That's the flexibility that I like about Pinnacle is, as somebody that's been working with enterprise clients now for 20 plus years, And in the software world, there isn't one client that I've showed up with my Oracle software or my IBM software and installed it out of the box and said, you do not get to change this. There's no customizing this. You have to use it as is. And so I take that same approach with my EMX clients in that there's flexibility here. Okay. And in Pinnacle, we actually customize and we change the meeting name. So instead of calling it a weekly L10, we call it the KS2 11 o'clock. And instead of, calling the rocks, whatever, we can customize the naming of those. We customize the actual agendas so that for a sales meeting, there's no reason why we need to do certain things that we maybe would do in a leadership team L10. So all of this is customized and tuned to the needs of the business so that it doesn't feel rigid, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like I'm in a, I'm in a straitjacket here. I'm able to flex and move to the needs of the business and the people that are running my business.
What do you kind of staying on that point? What do you see as some of the leading contributors why, these initiatives lose their steam and companies decide to not continue with the implementation? What have you found?
I see, I see a couple things. I see people that have read, traction in other books. There's a lot out there now, and then they try to self-implement. And I see that, the visionary or somebody at the company gets really excited, and then they try to implement this and bring this into their company. And they hit a lot of resistance because not everybody's read the book, not everybody's on board. Plus, it's hard to read the label when you're stuck inside the jar sometimes. And that's where it's really helpful to have somebody come in from the outside to help you install, if you will, the language, the discipline, and then all the tools that are required to be successful here. So I see self-implementing as one thing that's a big obstacle. The other is I see people get kind of half implemented, I'll call it, where they get the leadership team gets on board, and then they have trouble cascading to the additional departments. Okay, so it's called a system for a reason. And if you're only using it in one group, and I've seen this where there's a company of 1,000 people and they have a leadership team fully doing it, and some departments working well, but not all departments. So it doesn't feel like it's fully installed in. It doesn't feel like they're getting the full value. So those are a couple areas that I've seen.
Is it fair to say that, Eric, you would look at yourself as an accountability role for the businesses you're working with? Like, it's the self-implementing is a problem because people have other positions, they get busy, and there's no advocate there devoted to this. Would you say that your role is part of that advocate devoted to making sure things move along?
Yeah, we use the term, and this is a really good point you're bringing up, Paul. The in the EOS world, we call it an implementer, okay, which sounds like I install something and then I then walk away because
Yeah.
it's running, right? And on the Pinnacle side, we call ourselves guides. Okay, so we're guiding the clients. And so our job is accountability, certainly, as you pointed out. That's key. Encouragement is very important. We bring a lot of expertise, though, in real world experience that creates shortcuts for our executives and for our leadership teams. That's one of the biggest values that we bring. But it's that accountability and encouragement, that inspiration, but we also get them to work hard, or maybe there's some perspiration there as well.
Love it.
It is really good. Just so that we don't lose the thread that you started, you were going down the path of describing the EOS 555. And I think I'm guessing that your intent was to go into how Pinnacle addresses coaching employees. And I think that differentiation is really helpful if that's where you're planning to go. But then Paul and I's questions may have taken you off course. I don't know, but
That's perfectly fine. So
Jay's
here,
fault. It's all Jay's fault.
so here's the difference. So on the people analyzer, you remember I talked about plus minus for core values, and then GWC, and it's a yes, no. So it's kind of a binary flag, if you will,
Mhm.
for evaluating. In the Pinnacle world, we use 1 to 10, and for the we call it a cultural fit, which is your core value test. So 1 to 10, 10 is best, 1 is worse. And then productivity wise, we grade it on a 1 to 10. So what I like about this, allows people to, oh, and then we chart it. So we have the entire team, and I've done this for my leadership team. I've done this for the whole company. And then I'm doing this with my clients too, because it allows you to group and see, we always talk about A players. Everybody wants A players, and we're all striving for that. And the A players are over here in the top right quadrant. All right. So that's where they're highly productive. They fit your culture. They're exhibiting all the right behaviors, and they're delivering value to your clients. Right. We want them to be in that upper quadrant there as far as possible. We call them climbers. Right. So those are our climbers. And then we want to avoid the people that are in that bottom left, the cavemen. So they're not productive. They're not a culture fit. And for those, you asked earlier, Paul, around if they don't fit, then what do we do? Then we
Yeah.
have a process. It's called quarterly coaching. So EOS has the 555. We have quarterly coaching, and in those coaching sessions, we get to talk about, okay, look, I'm seeing you as an 8 in productivity, or maybe you're a 4 in productivity. And then you're a 4 in culture fit. So right now you're not in the right quadrant. You're not where we want you to be. What's it going to take to move you to an 8, or to a 6, to a 7? And those conversations I find to be enlightening, because people are honest. Some people will say, you know what, this isn't for me. And I say, thank you. Thank you for your honesty. And then we can both move on accordingly. Jay, I don't know if you've experienced that or not in your group or in your other companies, but I just find that refreshing.
Yeah, no, I find it refreshing. And the other thing that comes from this is that the pattern that most of us fall into is when we do something where we come back and figure out who are A, Bs, and Cs. We waste a lot of time trying to turn the Bs into As. And what I think as leaders we need to do is totally take the handcuffs off of our A's and let them just create exceptional value. And so it's really good to get this chart so you can figure out who are my A's. But then I just don't want, the thing I'm trying to work with my CEOs on is just don't get in their way, and the thing about Vistage companies is a lot of them are founder based. And when you're a founder, you were at one point, chief cook, bottle washer of everything within your company. And so that you can do the job, and it's a lot of times difficult to let go and let others take on responsibility and to micromanage. And so a big piece of this is, hey, stop working in your business and start working on your business. You've got these A players, you could scare them off if you micromanage them. Let them go and let them be productive. And what's really, really helped get this message across is we've started working backwards from what would it take to sell your business. And in every book you ever read about selling your business, no one wants to buy a business that's dependent on the founder. People want to buy a business that has employees that can take over once the founder gets his big check and decides to go retire. And so I think that has helped a lot of my CEOs. It's helped their light bulb go on. That's what's in their best interest. And I think that then having this visualization where they can see quantify who are the A players, and then really put together progression plans, which is, I have this great general manager, but he needs something to kind of go to the next level. Well, maybe have him present to the board more often. Maybe have him join Vistage, where he gets exposure to other general manager type folks, and he can understand aspects of business outside your business. And so put together the plans that help people really develop their folks. That has been the best step function that our groups have had in, I'd say, the last 18 months.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. And, in coach, we talk about strategic coach, we talk about a self-managing company. So as we get these people processes in place and getting these quarterly conversations right, the people issues start to subside and you start to see performance rise. What I'm showing on the screen here, just real quickly, is a sample quarterly conversation. So this is what the coaching looks like. And what's working, what's not working. A lot of people use that. I like some of these specific ones in here, especially as you hire, I'll call them millennials or Z, whatever generation we're in now. But younger people coming in, they want to know that they're working on things that matter. Okay, so I like to ask the question around, do you feel that you're working on things that really matter? Is the work that you're doing important? How do you feel about the work that you're doing? Are you proud of it? These are things that are really, really important for the groups that we're working with, our people. And what has you frustrated? As a leader, our job is to remove the barriers. Our job is to remove the friction and make life better, right? So what has you frustrated? That's another question that I'd love to ask. So these are just some of the tools that we use in Pinnacle, and I find them to be a little richer and the conversations a little richer versus that that rigid and feels a little bit limited around the 5-5-5. Does that make sense?
It certainly does. I mean, especially if you pretend that you're the employee, and so if your boss, here you're working your butt off for this company and your boss is only able to give you 15 minutes. It never had a good feel to me. I never really loved the 5-5-5, but once you showed me how the Pinnacle approach, then I was like, okay, that kind of crystallized for me, kind of like, yeah, I like the much more human approach where you're having a meaningful conversation where you're discussing, do they have value, or even, there's, a Gallup type question. Do you have a friend in the company? And kind of having those interview questions, like instead of an exit interview, think of it like a stay interview, so that you really are able to get into your employees' minds and understand, why do they work for you? What, what's keeping them here? And rarely is the answer money. Usually, and usually the answer people quit is because of their boss. And so, if you can develop that rapport and get that relationship and improve upon it and have them feel like you're in their corner to try to help them move up the ranks and become a more valuable employee, that's very important. And this is such an important conversation that I really like the attention that Pinnacle gives to it.
How do you get somebody started on Pinnacle? I mean, what does the onboarding, the initial interaction look like?
Yeah, so let me skip to that. So
Before you go there, I was just going to say, I think what Eric and I were thinking is this might be the first of multiple sessions.
Yeah.
So, so I think if you like what we've done here around people, we're also planning, future sessions around, process and helping with structure and other areas. So we'll be continually building on it. And I just want to make sure that people are aware that this, we're not seeing this as a one and done. I think there's a lot of valuable content that Eric has to share with us, and wanted them to be aware that we see this as a high value conversation, and we're more than happy to have subsequent conversations. So
yeah, Jake. Well, I can just add mine. When you've talked to me about your group, your Vistage group, and the people in that group who are absolutely dynamic and crushing it in business, and a big chunk of them are using processes like this that you're talking to about, I think says really, all of it. All you need to know there is it works.
This is the mindset of the people we want in the group. We want people who have that growth mindset, that understand that they don't have all the answers, and they're willing to come and share with others, saying, I'm stuck here. What do you see that maybe I'm not seeing? Have you had this experience? Can I learn from your mistakes so I don't have to make them myself?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
all those things are just natural. And if people have those mindsets, then this is a great environment for them.
Hmm. Yeah. And just to piggyback on Paul's question back there. So Paul, you're asking, how do we get started?
Yeah.
I definitely have a slide on that, but the one thing too that I found helpful is to compare the two models, put them side by side, just to know, uh, and as Jay said, today is all about people. And so the models they look a little similar on the surface. The big difference, a couple big differences. One is there's quite a bit more tools on the Pinnacle side. So the Pinnacle tooling, if you will, the toolbox is, first of all, the tools are evergreen, meaning they're constantly being improved. And then the actual growth of the tools. We just added some additional tools this last quarter, and there's more coming. And so I think we're up to 70 or 80 tools in Pinnacle, and I think there's maybe 30 or 40 perhaps on the EOS side. So it's a doubling. And as a co-founder at KS2, one of my big frustrations was there were no tools that were deep enough for us as we kind of got over some of the basics. We were looking for the more advanced tools, more advanced thinking, more advanced ways of executing. And so on the Pinnacle side, the strategy tools are outstanding. The process tools are richer. And we talk about playbooks and building playbooks versus, having these tactical checklists, if you will. So it's different. And as Jay said, we're looking to have, this is just, if we go around the wheel, so we've covered a little bit on the people side today. We'll talk about purpose, playbooks, and perform. But in the end, and I think this is what really attracts me to Pinnacle, is that we're playing to win, and winning means profits. Okay. And even if you're not a for-profit organization, and let's say you're a not-for-profit organization, you can put in the middle here, and I'm going to steal this from one of my Pinnacle friends. He said, put MI $ I $ ION, mission with dollar signs, basically. Okay. So put that in the center. I didn't spell that right, but you get the drift, that
Yeah.
that's the center of the target. And how do we maximize our cash flows, and how do we maximize our profits? And those tools are non-existent in the EOS world. And we need those as business owners and as people that are sticking their neck out day in and day out for their people. And profits isn't a greed thing, right? Profits is about growth. It's how we are able to do more. It's how we're able to provide bonuses and provide additional incentives and additional benefits to our employees, and ultimately to our clients.
And Eric, it's my understanding that you have, not-for-profits as clients. Obviously, they must understand that they need to have revenues to fulfill their mission and to provide a wage to their employees. And so it is a very necessary element of being in business.
Absolutely. Great point, Jay.
I love it. I mean, the next topic after people, moving into purpose, you think? Where are we going from here?
Yeah, well, if I don't know if you're able to poll the audience and just kind of get a feel for what people are doing today. Are they using EOS? Are they not? And then are they using Pinnacle? Maybe they're looking at something like OKRs or scaling up. There's a bunch of different frameworks out there. So I'd be curious what the live audience here is using or looking at, and what they're looking for. And I'm happy to guide the next presentation towards that.
Well, I think certainly if people can put that into the chat, that'd be fantastic. One of the things, just in terms of wrapping this one up, Paul was asking a question about next steps, and I kind of interjected the fact that we were seeing this as part of a series. how would you answer his question regarding next steps?
Yeah, so I have a slide for this. So let's just go ahead and put this up on the screen. So, you know, the first thing is we do a complimentary consultation, a discovery call, just have a conversation, right? So,
Right.
and normally that's with the CEO or the owner. It could be with the second in command. It doesn't really matter. It needs to be at an executive level. And I like to just ask the question, you know, what did you hear today that resonated? What made sense? You know, what did you like? What didn't you like? And then as part of that call, we can do that on just a regular call. We can jump on a Zoom, Teams meeting, whatever is easiest for you. The main thing is I'm more interested in learning about their needs, learning more about them, and seeing if this is even a fit, because it may or may not be a fit, but you'll know pretty quickly in 30 to 45 minutes if this is something you want to pursue. So that's what I recommend as the next step. And then typically after that, if the conversation goes really well, then we do what's called an audition, and typically the CEO will invite myself in, and I'll, you know, essentially walk through a little bit of what we did today, but even more with his leadership team. And we're looking to find out a couple things. One is Pinnacle right for the company and for the team, the leadership team? And secondly, is Eric the right guide to take them to the next level? So that's how we do this. It's very simple. I've done this a number of times now, and I'm working with a number of companies. And I'm not looking to do this with another 10 or 15 clients. I'm looking for one or two of the right clients that are coachable, that are on the right growth trajectory, and see the value in what we're doing.
Fantastic. So one of the things that we need to take care of is how for folks to get in touch. And it's our plan to have a landing page, but certainly in the interim, folks can feel free to send an email to I'll give my email, and then also you give yours, Eric. But it's first name period last name at vistagechair.com. So it's JAY period HOLSTINE at vistagechair.com. And what's your email, Eric?
Yep, it's E, and I'm going to go ahead and pop it into the chat here. So it's E Kuefler, my last name, so EKUEFLER at capital L, the number 10, so 10integrators.com. So feel free to reach out to me there. And then my KS2 email is ekuefler at ks2inc.com. So I respond to both of those, but prefer the L10integrators.com.
Yeah, and what I'll tell people is we're sending this replay out to everybody that signed up, and we're going to stream this so you'll be able to watch it again. People will have the replay with contact information wherever you're watching this, whether live or the replay. The information to connect with Jay and Eric will be around the video, so we'll make it very easy. So, gentlemen, thank you. Great subject matter. Yeah, really appreciate it. Thanks everybody for being here.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Paul.
Okay.
Appreciate you guys. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Talk to you.